So, dear friends, I'm back again. It's almost the end of November. Cold is setting in, and I'm sure you are taking care of yourself. The rains are still there, and Bangalore is experiencing a little of cold. It's understood. December is going to be much more colder, but it makes us all warm and hearty because Christmas is coming by. Christmas is close by. Let me start with the message of this Sunday of Advent. This message is very simple. I would say, awake, be aware, and arise. Awake, aware, and arise. First of all, awake because there are certain things we take for granted. I take it for granted that everything is okay with me, that I will be going for office tomorrow, that I will be doing my work. But then it may not be as simple. The people over there last year, perhaps they are not here. So therefore, the church comes to shake us up and say, get up, and be aware of the things, aware of the many things in your life. Be positive, be proactive, because many a time the day goes and the months go and we become so critical, so negative, so moody, so melancholy as it's such. Life has got many good things. So be aware of many things. Be aware of your family. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware that you have a good health, or perhaps your health is not as bad as you can say it to be. And thirdly, as I said, arise. Arise, get up and start walking, start functioning. You see all the three readings today, St. Paul speaks about in the second reading to the letter to the Romans, chapter 13. He says, get up, be awake, don't sleep. Many of us perhaps are sleepwalking, that we just walk along. Nothing is happening, nothing is affecting us. There was one child who said that there's a teacher in our class who doesn't smile. I gave a bright smile. And the teacher bent down and said, nice child. Perhaps small gestures. Our life is of little things. The little things in our life matter much more than the great achievements of ours. To smile at a person, to say, to a handshake, to give something, to perhaps to call back to a person who is trying to reach out to you. These are small things which will make you happy and the others also. And in the first reading today, we have a beautiful message also of the Messiah that is going to come. Isaiah speaks in the second chapter of this Messiah, and he says it will be really a reign of joy and glory. So much so there are two small examples that he gives. What's a plow? A plow, first of all, a sickle. A sickle will be turned into a plow, and a sword will be utilized in order to make things good. So which means there are harmful things in our life which we could turn into positive things. There is something in each one of us that is negative. But if we are aware of these negative things, perhaps we can use it as positive elements, the positive perhaps boosters for the others. And the gospel, of course, says, be aware, and not only that, be ready. Because any time God can enter your life for good. And like the robber who comes to rob, who takes perhaps certain things that he doesn't announce his arrival to you. So also perhaps there are certain things in your life that God may announce so suddenly that you are not prepared. And therefore be prepared for everything. Be prepared. There are so many things in your life for which you have to always be prepared. So my dear brothers and sisters, the message of this Sunday, as I said, first of all, awake, aware, and arise. Secondly, what's the message of this Advent? what we call the liturgical year, the season, what's called the Advent season. From next Sunday onwards, rather this Sunday onwards, it's going to be the Advent season, the Sundays in the season of Advent. The first Sunday of Advent, that's today, and Advent is a special season for us. It's a season of expectation. You know what's the meaning of expectation. You can expect anything. Anything can happen. And we expect always joyous things to happen to us. A mother who is expecting a child. She is anxious, of course, but then the thought that a child is going to come, so nice. The siblings in the house when the child is being born, with what perhaps beautiful expectation they look forward to. My brother or sister, is he going to be fair? Is he going to be brown? Is he going to be perhaps good looking like daddy or mummy? These are all expectations. And that is why Advent season is called a season of expectations. And Advent, the word itself says that we are waiting for someone who is coming. We are getting ready for something important in our life. Advent in itself is a season in which God reminds us about the last things, about God's own appearance in our life at the end of time, And we call it the second coming of Jesus, wherein after our demise, after our death, God will ask us those questions about our life. And therefore, the seasons that perhaps we begin with, it's called the Advent season, a new liturgical year. And the year, what for us Christians starts from the first Sunday of Advent. It's not 1st January. Surely the calendar year is the 1st January, but for us the liturgical year begins in the first Sunday of Advent till Christmas and a little after Christmas. So these 4 weeks or 5 weeks as it were, we have these readings on the expectations, on our responsibility, and surely that God is waiting for us. Immediately perhaps we are preparing for Christmas, but that isn't the whole thing. The Christmas is something that leads us to a bigger Christmas in our life when God will appear and hold us responsible for all that we are. So I welcome you for this liturgical year that's going to begin. Many of us have just called diaries. In the diary we note down many important things, happenings, and perhaps even for the future. So we have what's called the liturgical diary. A liturgical diary. In this liturgical diary, which starts in the month of December, as I said, Advent season, till the next Advent, we have the course of the whole year, the different feasts, the different celebrations, the different saints, and so many things. I recommend that each of you has got a diary, a Bible or liturgical diary in your house, and it's perhaps traditionally we read the gospel of the next day, today itself, perhaps the rosary time, so that even if we cannot attend the Mass, or even more better if we attend the Mass, that we are prepared for this Word of God that God gives us every day. So I first of all wish you a very happy liturgical year beginning from this Sunday of Advent. I now speak to you about what I have spoken earlier about the voter ID revising and renewing, or perhaps even doing registration anew. I have spoken, but once again I want to say that it was a very happy experience for me last Sunday when we had a meeting of 150 volunteers, came from different parishes, and they said that we are not only for ourselves, we are for others. We want to help others who do not know how to check their cards, etc. So they have gone across the parishes and have instructed the parishes in a very special way in order to go into this move on a war footing, because every one of us has to have a valid voting ID card, and for that We have established, first of all, in the center of our Archdiocese, in the Palna Bhavan, an office of what's called a voter helpline office. So anyone, you will see on the screen the details of it, anyone can perhaps inquire, you can send a message, you can even perhaps send your cards and say that please check up, they might get back to you. Besides, in every parish, we encourage also a voter helpline, small desk, a small office, wherein the volunteers from the parish can come together and start doing this feeding of the documents, trying to checking up also. But the most important is we need volunteers in every parish, perhaps the parish council members, some youth, some women, to go house to house, to check the cards, to see that everything in the cards mentioned is correctly, and at the same time perhaps help the people to re-register, to re-correct their cards. And this is going to be like a mission, a missionary job, house to house and person to person, so that all are covered in our Archdiocese. Remember, Christians are duty bound, and as citizens of this country, we have to exercise also our responsibility of voting the right persons. But before we can think of voting, we should have the voter ID card ready. And for this, I request that every one of you make an effort to get your ID cards checked, either through the persons who come to your house or through your parish office, or perhaps even the Archdiocese. I speak to you about, let me say, CCC, capital C, CC. It can stand for many things. Perhaps C can stand for cultures, T can stand for many other things. But the CCC that I speak of is a short form for Catholic Catechism of the Church. The Catholic Catechism of the Church. And this document, or this book that was brought up about 20-25 years ago by Pope John Paul II, is like the catechism answers for many of our questions. You know, we have many things to ask. How many gods are there? Who is the Holy Spirit? What is the church? How many sacraments? How many commandments? So many questions we have. And so for the peoples who have questions, the Catholic Catechism of the Church, the book, gives answers. Give answers in detail, gives answers with references. But many of us, perhaps we may not have time. We may not have time to go through the catechism answers of the, and remember, catechism doesn't mean it's only for children. This book of CCC, Catholic Catechism of the Church, is for adults. For adults. I wish you bought this volume in your house. But even if you cannot, we have a small attempt that we are going to make to give in every church on every Sunday, if possible, if there's a cooperation from the parish priest, if you have what's called the media system or the display system in your church, we are going to help you with this, what's called a small clip of 3 minutes every day before Mass. Every day before Mass, so that the Mass is not prolonged, Mass is not cut. This is a ready-made clip about certain aspect of the Catechism of the Church combined with the readings of the Mass. And this will be played or displayed before the Mass. Let's say if the Mass is at 7 o'clock. 5 minutes before, perhaps this clip will run through in your systems, in your visual systems, so that you are already prepared for Mass. You have the summary of the readings there, and at the same time, one single point from the Catholic Catechism of the Church will be displayed to you. Perhaps this time it could be about life. The second time it could be the Holy Spirit. The third time it could be perhaps the Sunday Mass, or is it stealing is bad, or something like that. It will go on through the whole year. And the person who has been given encouragement to do, and he has taken a lot of trouble to prepare these small clips of the Catholic Catechism of the Church and the readings, is Mr. Senior Chen, a parishioner of the parish of Banaswadi, St. Paloti Church. And when he came to us, I found it very, very interesting and at the same time attractive. It doesn't impose on you, but it's displayed on your screen. So all that we ask you is, when you come a little early for Mass, about 5 minutes or so, it will be played. And so nothing that you won't have to do, only watch and enjoy this clip. At the same time, learn from this a little of the Catholic Catechism of the Church, and be prepared for the liturgy of the day by having a summary of the readings before the Mass itself. I recommend this to all our parish priests and to those people, and especially what we call the computer buffs in our parishes who are anxious to do and give something. I have always said in the past that the visual system should not be distractive, should not be something that perhaps takes us away. And that's why we avoid what's called bang, the publicity, the noise, the colors, the pictures, the visuals. We try to avoid so that we are all in a holy atmosphere, conducive to prayer. But this particular clip, that for 3 minutes only, that is going to be played before the Mass on the Catholic Catechism of the Church, CCC, and the readings will be very useful. 3rd of December is a big feast in our Archdiocese. It is a feast of St. Francis Xavier, who is the patron of our Archdiocese. We have a beautiful cathedral named after St. Francis Xavier. We have some institutions, some schools, and some congregations also have this name. And we are proud to have St. Francis Xavier as our patron, because he's one of the biggest missionaries. A missionary who came from Portugal at the age of 36. And he was not supposed to come to India as such. He used to work as a Jesuit. The earliest Jesuit was something else. But then, since someone else who was chosen in his place could not go, the Lord fell on Francis. And so he lands in Goa and he preaches the word there. From there he goes to Kerala, he goes to Tamil Nadu, and then, as you know, he crosses the shore and goes towards Indonesia, Malaysia, goes up to Japan. And all this in 10 years of his life, because he died at the age of 46. And he may have covered more than 10,000 kilometers and baptized more than perhaps 100,000 people at that time. And selflessly, day and night he worked. And therefore he is a patron, he is a symbol, he is an icon of all the missionaries. The 3rd of December, we will also have a special Mass that particular day in the Eucharist in the evening in the cathedral. I invite all our priests and religious to come for this festal celebration. It's a weekday, understood. But then, if I cannot sacrifice one day for my patron saint, I don't know. So therefore, try to come for the Mass in the evening. Perhaps you can go for work in the mornings and come for this celebration. We will meet our patron saint and ask him to forever keep us close to God, and especially the missions. May I say that this week also we will have certain guests from the Czech Republic, especially from the diocese that is supporting us, what we call the sponsoring of our children's education. I have said in the past, about 8,000 children have been educated with the help of the sponsorships. And this particular diocese in Czech Republic is called Hradec Králové. And so the benefactors are visiting us from 30th onwards. And on the 3rd of December, I am requesting the bishop who is coming from Czech Republic to be the main celebrant, because he also comes as a missionary to us, one who gives us and strengthens our faith. And therefore I welcome on your behalf all the Czech guests that will be here with us, about 4 or 5 of them, along with your bishop. His name is Bishop Jan Vokal. I welcome him on your behalf. I now go to the question that is traditionally asked, a good question. Why does the church marriage certificate not contain the Holy Confirmation date on the certificate? Why does the church marriage certificate not contain the Holy Confirmation date on the certificate? First of all, Holy Confirmation is needed, perhaps the necessity and requirement for marriage. So solely those who are baptized, they cannot marry validly in our Christian, licitly in our Christian rituals. They cannot participate fully. They can be blessed with the weddings, vows and the others, but it requires us to be baptized. It also requires us to be confirmed before marriage. And now the question is, at the time of the marriage, of course, the person is confirmed, has received the confirmation, but why is this fact not mentioned in the certificate of marriage? In the certificate is mentioned the birth date. In the certificate is mentioned also the baptism date, the marriage date, but why not the confirmation? Technically, it could be mentioned, but it's not necessary, because when we go to the higher one, perhaps the lower ones need not be repeated as such, and therefore there is no need of confirmation. But it is understood a person could not have got married without having been confirmed in the sacrament of confirmation. It is not mentioned, as I said. Perhaps we could mention it, but there is no necessity according to me. But the fact is, the person who is asking perhaps would like to remember also, because I have said in one or two of my places where I give confirmation that it is important for us Christians, to remember not only our birthday. Everyone knows when you are born, which day you are born, which year you are born. But I said, do you remember the baptism date? Many people smile because we don't remember. Will you remember? I asked the parents, do you remember your confirmation date? They smile, they don't. But to think that the sacrament of baptism, the sacrament of confirmation, and the sacrament of holy orders is given only once in your lifetime. Therefore, it's a very important sacrament for which you should remember, but they may not need to be written in the marriage certificate as such. I wish you a good week ahead, and especially as we begin what we call the Advent season, preparing for Christmas. I'm sure you have so many ideas to celebrate. The sweets will be start baking now, the cards will be sent, and it's such a joyous occasion for us at Christmas time, and therefore let this be a good time to prepare also for your life. Thank you.
My dear friends, please do share your feedback, your impressions, and your experience, or send a message to the email address as you find on the screen, archdblr@gmail.com. And you also have the phone number, the mobile number, wherein you can send your message or WhatsApp on this number. Archbishop is ready and waiting to answer your questions. If you have any question, any doubt, any uncertainty, or there's no clarity upon something, you can ask those questions, and with the discretion that the Archbishop will surely answer these questions in the weekly feature Shepherd's Voice. Thank you, and we look forward to the next episodes.